live in strange times. Donald Trump is President of the United States. The people of England voted to leave the EU, and far-right parties may make strong gains in Europe this year. Here at home, our nationalism is on test every day, even in a movie theatre. And more than any other day, today, as we celebrate 68 years as a republic, it's a time for us to reflect whether we, as a nation, have upheld the values of our Constitution. Tonight, to answer some of those questions for us, we're happy to be joined by former governor, former diplomat and author Gopal Gandhi from Chennai. Mr. Gandhi, thank you very much for joining us on this Republic Day evening. You wrote a very strong open letter to the Prime Minister that was published in the Hindu today. And you said in that letter to him that no one can deny that your appeal has grown, that it's grown because you're seen as a doer, you're perceived as having taken on corruption, and that you're regarded as being tough on terror. But the important question is whether all of this translates into bearing true faith and allegiance to the Constitution. Can you explain what you meant by that?
The core values of the Constitution are about an individual's dignity, an individual's right to express herself or himself without fear of intimidation. That is a fundamental right granted by the Constitution of India. And I feel that today, while we have many reasons to celebrate our Republic Day, we have many reasons to be wondering whether there are some things seriously wrong and something seriously missing from our political and social life. One very palpable reason why I feel that the disappeal of our Prime Minister and our government is also growing is this, that there is a sense of fear. There is a sense of a big brother watching you that makes people lower their voices as they speak in criticism of the government and look over their shoulders when they want to see something or say something critical. I feel that is inconsistent with the core values of our Constitution.
You said also in that open letter about Indira Gandhi, you've talked about how she reneged on the Constitution, betrayed her oath and was then thrown out of power, lock, stock and barrel. Indira was not India. No Prime Minister can be India. India alone is India.
Yeah.
That
is right. And I'm sure everybody who reads that will agree with me.
Do you see a parallel? Are you drawing a parallel then between Mr. Modi and Indira Gandhi?
The two are as different as any two individuals can be from one another. But in the spirit of the emergency 1975-1977 and the spirit of our political culture today, there is a very strong similarity. And I mentioned fear, that is the strong similarity. 75 to 77 were 2 years of great fear. There was an official emergency in position. Today there is no official emergency in position because the Constitution has ruled that out. But there is nonetheless something like fear. And I don't want to overstress the point because we have examples of very fearless people in our country today. Aruna Roy, for instance, is an extremely fearless woman. We don't have Jai Prakash Narayan, but we have people like Yashwant Sinha and Wajahat Habibullah who went to Kashmir and spoke their minds. They are fearless people. So it is not as if we don't have fearless people, but the overall climate is of extreme caution, extreme reserve, and a fear of some kind of retribution visiting us. Now, this is something which links our times today with the times of the emergency. Of course, Indira Gandhi and Narendra Modi cannot be compared as persons. They are very different people.
Having said that, Mr. Gandhi, is it fair to make that comparison with what is happening today to the emergency? And I ask this because we are still very much a democratic country. We have, free and fair elections. And, when people have been unhappy with the political party, the BJP, which got such a thumping majority in 2014, was shown the door in Delhi. It was shown the door in Bihar. Similarly, we saw what happened to the Congress, of course, in 2014. And, the fact that you can sit here on television tonight and openly criticize the current regime, or that you can write an open letter the way that you have. Does it not reflect that it is actually a little different from 1975?
Ms. Razdan, I could turn that and say, you're telling me that I can sit before a television and I can write a letter. Is that not an indication that you are free? That itself to me shows that an elementary right is being framed today in ivory or gold and being told that here you are, exercise your right. I'm sorry, that is not how I see it. The fact that anybody should regard my being here speaking to you at your invitation should be an exceptional or even a notable matter speaks for itself. That I should be able to write a letter, and for that letter to be regarded as something slightly extraordinary itself speaks volumes.
I think that's been very eloquently put by you.
The fact is that elections are guaranteed. The elections are guaranteed by our constitution. But the fact that elections are used as they have been used shows that our people have minds of their own. It does not mean that this government is enabling elections. Elections cannot be stopped. Mrs. Gandhi herself had to, after stalling elections, go back to elections.
You made a reference in that open letter as well about how those who are critical of the Prime Minister or of the government, that criticism amounts to treason, it's tantamount to be called anti-national. And I made the point at the beginning of the program that our nationalism today seems to be on test every day, even in movie theatres. I wanted your thoughts on that. Do you think that nationalism today is being very, very narrowly defined in these very straight jackets? We are going to be talking about Bastar in a few minutes, where activists who are helping tribals and fighting for human rights are being called anti-national and pro-Naxal because they're trying to do the right thing and trying to help poor people. What do you think of the nationalism narrative today?
Nationalism is being sought to be patented by a group of people, by a certain political formation, and that goes against the spirit of nationalism, because every national is by definition a citizen of the country, and also every person who is a voter is by definition a political person. Now, nationalism is not a creed, nationalism is a sentiment. And a national anthem is a song which one sings from one's heart, not out of fear. I believe our country is bigger than the Red Fort. The Red Fort is bigger than any Prime Minister, and a Prime Minister is bigger than the person who holds that office. I do not wish to discuss Mr. Modi beyond due proportion. He is a politician who has some very strong things going for him, some very sound decisions that he has taken. I have no bias against Mr. Narendra Modi, but I do not want Mr. Modi to become a signet for my patriotism. I do not want him to be the litmus test for my sense of Indianness, because that has nothing to do with him. That is my inherent right.
Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi, it's always wonderful to talk to you, sir. Thank you for coming in tonight and talking to us on the 68th Republic Day on, I think, issues that are very core and very key to all of us in the country today. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. I want to take what you said ahead with Mr. Chandan Mitra, of course, senior leader of the BJP, and Mr. Pawan Verma, senior leader of the JDU. Mr. Chandan Mitra, you would have heard what Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi was saying. How do you feel about his rather strong words? He believes today, in a sense, that our constitutional values have been undermined by, he seems to be suggesting, the Prime Minister himself.
Well, he is entitled to his opinion, as every Indian is, and he has been one of those people who's always been a naysayer. He always looks for the negative in every narrative in India. He has been doing that for several decades, which is why I have stopped reading him, because they all read in a very, very repetitive kind of way. So I'm not surprised with what he says, and I don't think that too many people are going to take him seriously.
Mr. Pawan Verma, have you stopped reading Gopal Krishna Gandhi as well?
No, I haven't. And I think what you take away from what he said is to begin a debate on whether the very word nationalism is being so narrowly defined or being required to be carried on your sleeve all the time. I think that's a relatively new development. Nationalism must instill a sense of pride in us, but nationalism cannot be a sledgehammer used by some people to pulverize those who disagree with them. And in recent times what has happened is that if you disagree with the central government or with the party in power, you are dubbed anti-national. And if you agree with what the government says, that's a test or a proof or a certificate for your nationalism. I think what has happened in addition is that nationalism has become lumpenized. It has gone into the hands of people with extremely brittle black and white choices, and you must fit into one category or the other in order to qualify for being nationalistic. In other words, you are constantly, as Mr. Gandhi rightly said, and I don't believe we should take his criticism purely in the prism of partisanship. He has raised certain concerns which we need to think about, to introspect, to ponder over. And I think that is applicable to people from all political parties.